Hi everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about ozone water and getting oxygen into the body. There's plenty of ways that I do that as an ozone and oxygen therapist. I work with coach a lot of people how to detox and cleanse their body. But whether you're trying to detox, cleanse, or just get into overall better health, one thing that's absolutely essential for just general health, but also if you're really trying excuse me, combat any illness, is to increase your oxygen in your body. Now, the ambient air around us has about 21% oxygen, and by doing deep belly breathing on a consistent basis, which would be similar to the breathing techniques used in meditation, you can really fill up the lungs completely. Most people, when they breathe, they do this. Say, take a deep breath, and you'll watch them go. And the chest, shoulders come up, the chest comes out. And what you really want to really fill up the full capacity of the lung is to breathe from the belly, from the diaphragm. So when you take in deep breaths, slow in through the nose. Notice my shoulders stayed level. So everything's coming from here. Using that diaphragm to push out the stomach. So if you hold your hands on your stomach and push out with your stomach against your hands, you'll feel that diaphragm start to drop and the lungs will expand this way. The shoulders should stay still when you're doing deep breathing techniques. So this is encouraged that you do this about 15 minutes of every day. It will absolutely help you get more oxygen into your system. It will help calm and relax your body and your mind. And most of us don't take a little mental vacation, but you can every day for 15 minutes and just clear your head. Do some deep breathing, get that oxygen in the body. Now, but this is 21% ambient air, 21% oxygen in ambient air. What we really want to do is we want to get higher levels of oxygen into the body. And what is ozone? Ozone is it's oxygen that has been electrified and has had energy brought to it, which splits one oxygen molecule, and those bind with two other O2s to make O3. And that's ozone. It's one of the most powerful detoxifiers known to man. It's what keeps our atmosphere completely clean from all the car emissions and volcanic eruptions, and so ozone really got a bad rap and a bad name because you can't really detect smog, but you can measure ozone levels. So it's when the large cities have a lot of smog build up, then the ozone starts to build up to try to cleanse all that out. It's Earth's way of purifying itself. It's the way it was created. So getting this ozone into our bodies, it can be very, very beneficial. Now, the one reason it got a bad rap is because you don't really want to breathe it in heavy amounts. It can irritate the lungs. It's not deadly. It is uncomfortable if you do take in large whiffs of ozone directly into the lungs. But if you avoid that, you can use it in many, many ways to help cleanse the body. This can be done various ways. We'll get into that in another video. Right now, we're just going to talk about drinking ozonated water. So I'm going to take you right over here and show you. Now this here, you'll see is, I got a glass here, bubbling. Let's see if I can get in here. You can see the bubbles on the top coming to the surface. So that's the gas bubbling through. This has been bubbling for about 15 minutes now. It takes about 15 minutes for the ozone or the water to reach what's called saturation point, where no more ozone gas can be held in the water. So what I'll do is take this, turn the ozone generator off. And how do we create ozone? Ozone is created by using an ozone generator. I have a industrial gas tank. You can see the regulator where we regulate the flow rate. The tube goes, I actually drilled a hole here, so the tube goes through here. The oxygen comes in here, ozone output here. Use a bubbling stone here into the water. Generally, you like to take, let's see, let me turn this off real quick and get my regulator. So now this is ready to drink. So not only are we getting hydration, which is one of the other key pillars of health, but we're getting our oxygen as well. Now, let me just take a sip here. Oh, I needed that. So what can ozone water do? What are its benefits? Why do we drink it? So we just talked about, of course, we know we need, talking about oxygen, we know we need that oxygen. So if most people aren't doing, let's face it, most people aren't doing deep breathing techniques. A lot of people aren't meditating. And most people say, I just don't have the time. Well, this took 15 minutes. Deep breathing only takes 15 minutes. But I can get more oxygen in doing this than I can just doing the deep breathing techniques. Now, am I saying don't do the deep breathing techniques? No, I'm saying do both. It takes 15 minutes to bubble this water. Now, in that time frame, you could do the deep breathing, but what I would actually encourage you to do, if you're going to do something like drink ozonated water, is to take and do rebounding. Rebounding, if you don't know, are miniature trampolines, and they look like this guy here. So get that in the screen. There we go. So this is a rebounder. Hop up on it. So you start bouncing, and you can start out slow, and after a while, maybe a couple minutes on it, just a little small warm up, you take it up a notch, and then you keep this up for 15 minutes. By doing so, you will open up your lymphatic system. Your lymphatic system is vitally important. It is the highway through which detoxification takes place in the body. Yes, we do have a lot of impurities that are taken out through the bloodstream, but most of that is done through the lymphatic system. We know, most of us know that we're over 80% water, 70-80% water in our body, and 60% of that is found in your lymph. There's only about 30% water mass found in the bloodstream itself. So when you look at that much of a difference, that's where most of your water mass is. And what I try to tell people or ask people that I work with, I always ask my clients, are you a pond or are you a stream? Both are bodies of water. But what happens when we see a pond? It sits there, no fresh water coming in, it's stagnant, no movement, and it starts to grow things. And it gets funky, right? Well, your lymphatic system is a one-way flowing system, and it has valves just like your circulatory system, okay? And sometimes through lack of movement, and people get older, they become more sedentary, you're too busy at your job, whatever it is, you're just not getting enough movement in your day, then that water, instead of us being flowing water, because we're mobile and we're mostly water, we become a pond. The water inside your lymphatic system, it's not moving the way it should, so it's stagnant. And if you're not drinking enough fresh water coming in, and you're not moving that either, well, it's just a perfect breeding ground for things to start growing. I do blood scopings where I take a drop of blood and look at it under the microscope, and I make no diagnosis of any kind by looking at this. It's merely a visual representation to look. What do you look like at the cellular level? Have you ever wondered that? Do your cells look healthy? Do they look healthy? Is the area inside that environment clean? And are the cells stuck together, or are they free floating, bouncing about? So this is a very interesting way to get a window into the body. And through that window, what you can quite often find out for people that don't hydrate properly, low oxygen level, and they're stagnant. They're a pond. There's things growing in there. There's bugs in their blood, and parasites, if you will. So these bugs cause all sorts of problems. Most of them are supposed to stay in the gut, and then through things like leaky gut syndrome, they can actually come out of the gut, get into the bloodstream, and once they're in the bloodstream and then they find the stagnant water, it's just breeding ground for it all. So how do we help this out? Increase your water intake to half your body weight in ounces a day for minimum hydration is a good rule of thumb. And then if you will rebound for at least 15 minutes a day, then you'll start to feel the difference. You'll start to clean out. And so by taking in more oxygen into our bodies through this ozonated water, then the cells can start to open up. You can, by taking it in through the mouth into the gut, you're boosting that oxygen content in this microbiome area. So we've probably all heard about probiotics at this point and the importance of probiotics, which are good, beneficial, aerobic bacteria. So there's two types of bacteria. There's aerobic, they love oxygen, they thrive in oxygen, they're good for our digestion. Then you have anaerobic, which do not like oxygen. These are the guys that if they get out of control, they cause lots of problems inside the body. And so the body you want the body to be in homeostasis. And so the good rule of thumb for gut health is about 80-20 rule. 80% good bacteria to 20% bad. Or 80% anaerobic, I should say, to 20% aerobic to anaerobic. And those 20% anaerobic, non-oxygen loving bacteria, you do need them. They do help break down fecal matter and these type of things. So they serve a purpose, but once they get out of control, they can cause an overgrowth of candida and yeast in the system. And that's one of the reasons why drinking the ozone water becomes so important to your gut health, to help give those good anaerobic bacteria more oxygen so that they can thrive and propagate. It's also every cell in your body, 40% of those cells are made up of what's called mitochondria, and they're the battery or the energy centers of every single cell. So what we know as aging, for the most part, is actually a hypoxic environment causing cells that would normally do their jobs to not have enough energy to do what their job is to do properly. And so those cells basically go to sleep or die, or are just operating at such a low function that things just aren't operating at peak efficiencies. So cellular replication can't keep taking place. So I won't say that people could live forever, but if you believe in the scriptures, we know that people lived hundreds of years. And so it's mine and my colleagues' belief that by taking and keeping higher levels of oxygen going into the body, we could actually live longer, healthier lives. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for quality of life for a longer period of time, and trying to stay as healthy and as vibrant for a longer period of time. Well, each one of those cells in your the body's made up of over 50 trillion cells, and each one of these cells has a life cycle. Just like we have a life cycle, they have a life cycle as well. And some cells live longer than others, but the average is about every 7 years, every single one of those cells has died and been replaced. So if this is true, And we know from biology that this is true. And we can keep giving those cells what they need so that they can operate at peak efficiency, so that our immune system is as high functioning as possible, then maybe not reverse aging completely, but at least slowing it down to a point where we can live longer, happier, healthier lives and be more productive at an older age and stave off long-term disease. Because if the cells are acting properly and the immune function is very high functioning, then disease can't exist in those type of environments.